But beating Alabama tomorrow at Faurot Field is going to be proof for us this team is a really good team. That the mindset has changed a little bit to where our expectations now within Columbia and on this team is that they can beat anybody. And if you're showing proof on a resume at the end of the season when they're placing those teams in the college football playoffs, the idea that this team can beat anybody is going to go a long way. And they can beat anybody sounds so much better than they can beat everybody with the exception of the top teams. All right, Tiger fans, we are 24 hours away from the big Alabama-Missouri game at Faurot Field. And is this finally going to be the game for Eli Drinkwitz that really puts him on the map at Missouri football, his big signature win? Now, when I talk about signature wins, I'm talking things like beating number one Oklahoma. Remember way back in the day, 2010, was that homecoming that game was huge, right? Huge. And games like that have been rather elusive for Eli Drinkwitz. Now, the video I posted earlier this week, where I basically was stating that the Eli Drinkwitz era is going to come down to probably this game this weekend. And the reason why I say that is the tenure that he's been here for the last, is it 5 years or so? What's been Coach Drink's biggest win? Now, there's been a lot of fun Missouri wins in that period. Games like this year, the Kansas game, or what was it, 2 years ago, the K-State win with the big field goal, the Ohio State Cotton Bowl win. And in the frame and context of Missouri football, yes, those are probably big wins. But I'm talking the big signature wins that get you national respect and really put you on the map. It's a thermometer of sorts to see just how much respect Missouri should be given, has been given, will be given. Now, for me, Coach Drinkwitz has done a lot for this football program in the time that he's been here. He's brought in a lot of money. In just the last 3 seasons alone, Coach Drink has brought the Tigers to kind of national prominence at the beginning of a season with the high top 25 rankings. And then as per usual, the Tigers kind of fold in the middle of the season when the big games come around. We can't win those big games against the big premier teams that we have to get over to take that next step into being a national powerhouse. Tomorrow's game against Alabama is the one. If we follow the blueprint of the last 5 years, Missouri will fold. Missouri will tank even at home. They've only lost 3 games, I think, in the last 3 seasons. But the Tigers under Coach Drink have yet to win that big game. That big game. Yeah, we go back to that Oklahoma, that number 1 game, homecoming. That's a huge game. That was a huge game for Coach Pinkel back in the day. And I think kind of the last time that the Tigers were looked upon as being a legitimate playoff contending team. Now, I am hyped for tomorrow's game. I mean, it is going to be huge. What a fun atmosphere in Columbia. I wish I could be there. Now, to be straight and upfront with you, I have the Tigers losing to Alabama tomorrow simply because this year I am prognosticating, I am predicting based off of my head of what these Tigers have shown me in the last few seasons, that we don't win these big games, that we're still the little baby brother of the SEC. And I hope that Coach Drinkwitz and the Tigers prove me absolutely wrong tomorrow and for the rest of the season. Now, today's video, I just want to go over a couple of the comments that we got in this week on that last video. And I want to thank the people that left them there. Let's talk about the first one here from Wildcat8688. I think there's a psychological cap to what Mizzou football is capable of at the moment. It's rare air from Mizzou, and in situations like this, it's hard to determine how much the historical context is going to play into the mindset of our starters and coaches. I never thought we looked very confident when playing Alabama before, but I'd like to see that change. And I think that's really the key to us reaching the next level. Wildcat8688, appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yes, I do think there's a little bit of a psychological cap at Mizzou when it comes to Missouri football and these other top SEC teams. Now, there's no doubt that we haven't handled our business and beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, not only outside of the SEC, but even within the SEC by beating teams like South Carolina, beating teams like Auburn and Florida and Ole Miss. And I am super excited to get Ole Miss back on the schedule starting next season. My youngest son is a sophomore doing ROTC down there, so that next year is going to be awesome down there for the football game. But the Tigers have proven they can beat all of the other little brothers and sisters and cousins of the SEC. We just can't beat those top programs when they are at their peak in the SEC. We need to win some of those big games. Now, 2 big games last year the Tigers completely did not show up for. That first road game against Texas A&M, and I actually had predicted they would go down there and lose to the Aggies, of which they did. They just got smoked down there at Texas A&M. And then the Alabama game was kind of embarrassing mid-season. And I would hope that the coaching staff and the team itself remembers that game down in Alabama. Now, remember, that was the game where Alabama brought their starters back in on that goal line stance to prevent Mizzou from getting onto the board to preserve their shutout. Completely embarrassing game for the Tigers. Now, in this age of the transfer portal and having so many new faces there with the Tigers, even for this season, a lot of the team is not going to really, that loss isn't really going to factor in. It will for the coaching staff. I don't know so much for the players. Now, as far as Wildcat 8688 was saying, as far as historical context and how much that's going to play into the game tomorrow, I think really it's only going to play in and factor with Drinkwitz. I mean, that was not only an embarrassing game last year, but I think deep down with Coach Drink, and I love Coach Drink, I think he wants so badly to prove to people that he can win these big games. And the Tigers are coming off this bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. You know, Coach Drink is a very smart, strategic person. And I'm not just saying that because he's the Tigers head coach and we're on a relative high for the Mizzou Tigers, but I think a lot of the SEC coaches, other SEC coaches, hold him in high regard as a really good coach. And I think really the only person that's going to be affected by historical context is going to be Coach Drink tomorrow, but we're going to see. Second comment I want to touch on came from PH_CA, predicting 7-5 now that they're 5-0. It's the most pessimistic take I've heard this week. And let's take this comment kind of in parts because I'll end up forgetting. I'd rather address it right when we come to certain parts of what he was saying. So yes, I have the Tigers going 7-5 for the season. That was coming into this season. I've had moments to where I'm like, should I readjust as far as when Blake Craig went down, when we saw a little bit more from Bo Pribula, as we're seeing Ahmad Hardy running all over the field, being a potential Heisman candidate. And as much as there's a part of me that wants to reevaluate that 7-5 prediction, I still have to kind of hold steady. Now, I get it. Tigers are 5-0, and for me to say the prediction for me is going to be that they're going to be 7-5 means they're going to end up going 2-5 the rest of the way. I don't know if that's necessarily a pessimistic view, more so of a realistic view. Look at the schedule the Tigers have in the second half of the season as they now start having to go on the road. I think we all know that in the SEC, there is no given victory, no given win when you look at those games across your season. And I know Tiger fans, but when they look through that schedule and they're seeing Vanderbilt, they're seeing Auburn, they're penciling in that those should be wins. That is simply not the case. I think going 2-5 is a realistic outlook on what is in store and what is ahead for the Tigers. Again, I have them splitting the games between Auburn and Vanderbilt. They're only going to win one of the two. And just to hold me accountable, I said that the Tigers are actually going to lose at Vandy. You have Texas A&M at home. That is a realistic loss, especially taking into consideration what happened last year. There's nothing Missouri has shown that they're going to pick that up as a victory. The Mississippi State game, you might be able to pencil that in, but that's not a gimme. You're playing Oklahoma there with or without Mateer. I think Oklahoma has that game. And the only thing that I would probably give you as far as being pessimistic is going to be the Arkansas game at the end of the season. And that one there, I'm just basing it off of going 2-5 and what the atmosphere is going to be like in Columbia. if the Tigers go 2-5, they're not going to be playing for that game. Now, on the flip side, whether Arkansas is going to be playing or not, they've got the coaching change. Petrino's back. Who knows what's going to happen there, but they weren't trending upwards prior to that move. Arkansas can only pretty much go up from here. And that's why, as a prediction for the season, I have the Tigers losing that final game. That's more of a factor of a really bad and disappointing second half of this season. All right, let's finish through the comment regarding the top and bottom, which are commonly referred to as ceiling and floor. And I totally get it. When I was talking about has Drinkwitz brought the top and the bottom up, or just the bottom here at Missouri, I knew in the back of my mind when I was filming that I was like, there's other words that I'm trying to scrape for that I couldn't come up with. So I think I was calling it, has Drinkwitz brought the top and the bottom up, or has he just brought the bottom up? It's ceiling and the floor. Totally get it. Obviously, both have been raised by Drink over the past 3 seasons. I will have to disagree there. I think he's definitely brought the bottom up, but where are we showing that he's brought the Tigers the ceiling higher? Where has he brought the ceiling higher? Because we're still a mid SEC team. And that's not saying that that's a bad team. In historical context, Missouri is, as a football program nationally, mid SEC is pretty good for us. But our time in the SEC has been pretty much mid to bottom SEC, other than a few of those Pinkel years to where we won the SEC East. And it was a down year for the East, but still, we won coming into the SEC. So I don't think we've necessarily raised the ceiling at Missouri with Coach Drinkwitz, but we have dramatically raised that floor. All right, let's see what else. Auburn hasn't looked great. Oklahoma has a good defense, but no offense. Mississippi State could be a trap game for us, which, okay, I get it. Arkansas has been a joke, but we'll see what the new coach can do with them. A&M and Vandy will be difficult, but winning against Bama or even losing close should boost the team's confidence and give them a shot at the playoff spot. I disagree there too. I think that if Missouri loses to Alabama, and in the eyes of the committee when it's all said and done, and we're going to have to wait till it's all said and done to see what the Tigers can do, whether or not winning or losing against Alabama is really going to make a difference. But Alabama is the first major test for this Tigers team on their way to a 5-0 season. And again, you're hearing it as you do every single season. The Tigers have played a, quote, soft schedule. The Tigers are in the top 25 because of that schedule. Now, I'm not saying the overall schedule is soft, but I'm also not kidding myself that the Tigers haven't gotten to 5-0 based off of a really difficult schedule. They beat Kansas, they beat South Carolina, and yes, those are teams that the Tigers consistently now under Drinkwitz are expected to win against, or at least should be really close games. But if the Tigers lose to Alabama tomorrow, that is going to be the excuse and the fodder that all of the national media is going to want to say, like, see there, that's the real Missouri, and you're going to see Missouri drop all the way down if they're going to stay within the top 25. If they lose to Alabama at home at Faurot, they can point and say, look, this team, they can't beat the big teams, especially at home, where we're already saying Missouri has a great record at home the last 3 seasons, and they can't beat Alabama at Faurot. Missouri needs to win this game tomorrow against Alabama to springboard them into having a chance of going into the second half of the season and giving them a little bit of a leeway to not have to go undefeated the second half of the season. But beating Alabama tomorrow at Faurot Field is going to be proof for us this team is a really good team. That the mindset has changed a little bit to where our expectations now within Columbia and on this team is that they can beat anybody. And if you're showing proof on a resume at the end of the season when they're placing those teams in the college football playoffs, the idea that this team can beat anybody is going to go a long way. And they can beat anybody sounds so much better than they can beat everybody with the exception of the top teams. Who are the teams that are going to be in the college football playoffs? PHCA Wildcat 8688. I appreciate the comments. Keep leaving them, and we'll see. Let's go MIZ. I'm stoked for this game tomorrow.